Hey, real quick, guys, before we get into the episode today, I just wanted to give a shout out to my new patrons on Patreon. At the 16-bit tier, we got Tetrafoli, Zero, and Mr. Arkansas. At the 8-bit tier, we got Big Nick Dika. I just want to thank you guys. You guys have been so supportive and so awesome for doing that. I also want to just thank everyone else who's been building this community with me, who's been supporting me on Twitch, YouTube, on Patreon as a free member, and also sharing my episodes, commenting, liking. You guys are awesome. I just want to thank you guys. Have allowed me to imagine that this thing is coming to life and I can actually feel it growing, and without you guys it wouldn't be possible. And I just, I couldn't do it alone. Thank you so much again, guys. I don't want this to go on too long. I know we have an exciting episode for Shadow of the Colossus, so let's get into it. Hey there, welcome to Retro Reloaded. I'm your host Lance, and each week I tackle a retro game shaped by your picks. If you want a chance to choose next week's game or unlock exclusive bonus episodes and polls, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's even a free tier to dip your toes in. Big thanks for all of your love and support. It means the world to me. Now let's hit the start button and reload those retro vibes. Shadow of the Colossus was developed by Team Ico and released for the PlayStation 2 in October 2005. Directed by Fumito Ueda, the game was built on an engine originally created for a now cancelled title, resulting in its vast, seamless world and towering boss designs. Its minimalist team worked around the PS2 hardware constraints to craft a hauntingly beautiful environment, pioneering techniques in real-time lighting and character animation that pushed the console to its limits. This game's sparse HUD emotive score by Kao Otani, sorry, I'm not awesome with Japanese names sometimes, but I think it's Kao Otani, and the emphasis on the atmosphere over dialogue marked a bold departure from genre conventions and laid the groundwork for future art house video games. When it comes to the plot, you step into the boots of Wanderer, who is basically an unnamed warrior. A lone young warrior who journeys into the Forbidden Lands atop his faithful steed, Agro, which you do know the name of the horse, you just don't know the name of him, for some reason, seeking to resurrect a girl named Mono. Guided by a mysterious entity called Dorman, Wanderer must hunt and slay 16 colossal beings scattered across the wasteland. Each battle is a riddle of scale and strategy, climbing the Colossi's massive forms to strike at their weak points, while darker mystery about Dorman's true nature and the cost of defying fate slowly unfolds. Also, as a side note, guys, if it sounds like I'm a little bit off today on today's recording, my voice has been kind of hurting like the last week or so, but I just want to let you know there's a reason why my inflections might not sound the same, or it might sound a little bit more down low or something. But yeah, just thanks for understanding. Awesome. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, I am covering, as you know, Shadow of the Colossus this week. I played it for a week. I, did kind of this modern day, is the game still holding up? I streamed it on Twitch and YouTube, and, I got some things to say about the game, and you guys are going to hear it. But I have a guest with me who is a lot more knowledgeable about Shadow of the Colossus than I am. Where did we find each other? Did we find each other on Reddit? His name is JackAttackDX, and welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Did we find each other on Reddit?
I want to say, I think I saw you on a Facebook group somewhere or something. Maybe It was Reddit. I don't know. There's so many social media platforms.
Dude, I get so lost. With all the social, it's like you got Facebook, you got Reddit, you got Twitter, you got Blue Sky, you got Mastodon. It's like endless. But yeah, so we found each other, and Jack was telling me, can I call you Jack for short? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jack was telling me that he's very fond of this game and he's played it multiple times, it seems like, and that you kind of have some knowledge about it. So could you just tell me like how you got started with this game and your experience throughout the years with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, the first time I played Shadow of the Colossus, it wasn't until 2011. Like, I had heard of the game, but I would, see the game cover for the PS2, and it didn't really stick out to me all that much. But when I had a PS3, I was used game shopping, saw the HD collection that came with Ico as well, and I was like, yeah, I think I'll give it a shot now. It was $15, why not? And like, it took a while to get used to the way the game controlled and how you move yourself around, but once I did, I was hooked. And before I knew it, I was sort of plunging into a rabbit hole of me playing the game almost nonstop, trying to get all the trophies and everything.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so I also, my first experience with this game was like in 2000, I want to say it's 2006. And I think so it's been about 18 years since I last played it. And so I got to kind of relive that, and some of the memories stuck with me, so a lot of things didn't. I forgot probably over 70% of the Colossi in this game. But I did remember a few specific ones, and we'll talk about those. But, this game really stood out to me back then because it was first of all, it was a PS2 game. And for a PS2 game, this game really shocked me on different, like how the Colossi operated. It really shocked me on the graphics. There was a lot of things that like, the game was just, I'm not going to, back then it was just so epic. I'm going to try to say like what I was feeling back then versus now, because I don't want to, I don't want to spoil it for everybody. But yeah, it was just so epic, man, back then. Like, I just remember turning on the game and seeing these, like getting on these giant monsters, and the music was going, and like, it was just really, it was so good. And so I have very fond memories of this game. So, I was like, let's cover it again. And I know it's a popular game with a cult following, like many of these games. But yeah. So are you like a speedrunner, or are you just somebody who just like plays this game often?
So I wish I could speedrun the game. It's something that I'm sort of like trying to learn some of the basics with. I want to just quickly give props to a speedrunner named Ruby, who I have seen her play it so many times in their own special way, and just every single time my jaw just drops at how quick they get through it. And I want to speedrun it one of these days, but no, for now, it's just a game that when it comes to Twitch, I like to, replay it on stream once in a while. Like, usually it turns into at least once every few months or so. But in my downtime, I like to revisit it, especially.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what keeps bringing you back to Shadow of the Colossus?
So I think for me, I think back to when I was first really sank into it. And during the time that I first really got into the game, to set the stage, I had lost my job. I was out of work, and I was going through this, like a little mini depression as a result of it. And all I had was this game, Shadow of the Colossus. Of course, I had other games, but that was the one that I was really finding myself sinking into. And there was something about like the desolation that you feel as you're going through the world and you're exploring everything. You're trying to find every little nook and cranny that you can uncover in the game. And it kept me busy. It kept me curious. And I feel like every time I revisit the game, I sort of get that curiosity all over again. Even though I know the game so well, whenever I attempt to 100% it, as it were, I like to, sort of treat it like it's my first time all over again. Obviously, I wish I could play the game for the first time all over again, but I can't.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I kind of got that. Obviously it wasn't my first time because I had beaten it so long ago. But, because it had been so long, I kind of got to relive that experience this week. And I'm going to say there were some really great things about this game. There are some things that annoyed the hell out of me, and I'll talk about that. But, yeah, sure. But, these mostly, I think I had a pretty good time with this game. And it was just it was man, it was it's so hard to say stuff without spoiling it, but I'm glad I played it. Let's just say that. Like, I'm really glad I played it. Now, is there like a favorite Colossi you have in this game?
Whenever I talk about this with some of my friends that have played this game, or whenever I watch many of my Twitch friends play it for the first time, which is always a treat, there are a couple that I like, but I think the one that sticks out to me the most is the 9th Colossus. I think they call it I think it's called Pateron. It's the giant like crab spider thing that comes out of the cave, and like you've got to manipulate geysers in order to get to it and everything like that. That battle is freaking awesome. I love it.
Yes, dude. Okay, so I know which boss you're talking about. He's like in a cave, and he looks kind of like I thought he was like a turtle or something.
Yeah.
But he walks pretty slow, and he like comes out, and I think he's one of the first Colossi that actually like shoots projectiles at you.
Yes.
I don't know if he's the first, but he is one of the first. And like, so you think you're kind of safe, and all of a sudden you just see these like green laser beams or whatever they are, and they go, and you're getting shot, and you're like, you have to get on Agro, and you're like, which is your horse, by the way, if anybody hasn't played the game. Agro is the name of the horse, and you'll find out very, very quickly that it's the name of the horse, because you're going to be screaming that like a good portion of the time in the game.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I remembered from the game, was screaming Agro, like Agro, like throughout the
like one of my favorite parts of the game.
What?
It's the part where your main character Wander just randomly shouts Agro.
Yeah, it's the best part. It's so remember. Yeah, so I remember the crab guy, and you do pull him over like these geysers, and it kind of flips him over. And it's a good fight. I think it's not too hard to figure out. You're like, okay, there's these geysers here, and like I have to do something with these. You know what I mean? Not all the bosses are so easy to figure out. And I'll go over that in my review after these questions. But some of them are definitely harder than others. Now, so I have a question. Can you do Colossi out of order?
I don't think you can, at least from my experience, because there was one time I was doing a stream of the game, and my mind for some reason was thinking like 2 or 3 Colossus ahead. And when I went to the spot, I'm like, why isn't anything happening? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh crap, I'm out of order. And I freaking turned around and I went to where I was supposed to go, kind of laughing about it.
So
I don't think you can.
Okay, it's not like a situation because I did Ocarina of Time the week before, and apparently you can do certain temples out of order. I hadn't really known that, but I was like, well, wonder if you like accidentally just stumble upon like Colossi in this, because because the world is really, really big. You're going to be traveling a lot in this game, and you're going to be going through different canyons and different plains and deserts and different areas, and the map is actually pretty big. And so I thought like maybe you might accidentally run into the wrong Colossi and like you'd have to fight it, but maybe not. But if that was the case, like I don't think it would be an issue in this game, because it's not like, unless you're hunting the lizard tails, which I think, do those help with like grip strength? What do those do?
Yeah, that's a stamina / grip strength sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So
I know that the fruits restore your health, give you more of it.
Okay, the fruits restore your health to give you more of it. I don't think I have gotten any fruits. I got to the last Colossi this week, so I haven't beaten the 16th this week. But I do remember him pretty vividly because and I think you're gonna why. Because he's a pain in the freaking butt, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely, if I can remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
He's the hardest Colossi in the game, is he not?
Definitely up there.
He's
definitely.
And he's just a pain. And I remember that the fight doesn't start with you near him. The fight starts with you like, really far away, and he's like shooting you the entire time. And then you finally get to this guy. And this is like just based on memory. You climb up him, and he's like super, super tall, and it's like just a pain to get all the way up, and you fall a lot and stuff. And yeah, so that's what I remember. Is that sound about right?
Yeah, that's very accurate.
Okay. Yeah, and he was like pretty much one of the only Colossi that I actually did remember. I had remembered him, and I had remembered the monkey guy before him. I don't know what his name is, but there's like a monkey dude, and he walks in like a kind of like it looks like a Colosseum type of ordeal.
Yes.
And he was kind of a pain too, man. He's a wiggle worm.
That's the one that's actually my like the biggest difficulty that I have in the entire game is that one.
And understandably so. It took me a while. He is a pain in the butt. Because you know, to describe to the audience, basically there's like different phases to all of these fights, and some of them are easier to do than others, and some of these bosses will reset you. So if you mess up, you have to like redo some of the phases, and he's kind of one of those bosses that you kind of have to do that with. And he like stomps on the ground, you have to get on and he like levels the platform, you have to dodge the foot, get up the platform, you have to get up on the next level, and then he has to hit a block down, and then it's like, okay, finally he hits the block down, you finally get up, you climb up to the next level, and then you have to like, coax him after he breaks a bridge. I don't know if he has to break the bridge, but he breaks a bridge, you have to dodge it, you have to coax him back over, you got to jump on him, and he wiggles he wiggles so much. Like the entire time. You're like, dude, stop wiggling. So there's certain bosses that are like wiggle worms in this game. That's what I've been calling them. Like this is a wiggle worm boss, and I hate this guy, and I hate the wiggle worm bosses, man. But some of them don't really wiggle that much. There's some bosses I got on, and I would like kill, and almost in the first time I got to the weak spot, Yeah.
Yeah.
But not all of them are like that. So.
Nuh-uh.
I feel your pain on that boss, by the way.
Yes.
100%. So, I heard there was, could you tell me a little bit of differences about the remake and the original, like the 2008? Actually, yeah, go ahead and tell me about the PS3 and the PS4 and the PS2, like the differences between all those.
So obviously you got your original PS2 version, which I will say that even though I am much more fond of the PS4 remake, which I'll talk about in a little bit, I do think the PS2 version is still a very remarkable game. It's one of my favorites on the original PS2 just because of how much of a miracle the game is to be running on the console. The PS2 is practically giving its life up to run the game. It's awesome. The PS3 version takes the PS2 game and upscales it to high definition and smooths out the frame rate considerably. So it's largely the same as it is on PS2. Now, the PS4 remake that came out, I do call it a remake, not a remaster like I hear a lot of people call it. It's a remake because Blue Point Games took every asset in the original game and rebuilt it from the ground up while keeping it within the constraints of the engine of the original game. So it's the original Shadow of the Colossus, but it's a whole new experience. And what they did was they updated the trophy list to add some special challenges. Like, there are just some really cool ones. I don't know if I want to say them necessarily, but one of the things they did as a bit of a like tribute to one of the pioneering like Shadow of the Colossus YouTubers, but also as like, a wink to the community in general, was they put over 70 of these collectible items in the remake that require you to scale so much of the map in order to find all of them. I think you might even have to do a couple of playthroughs to actually get every single one. But if you manage to get them all, you get an extremely powerful weapon, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
It's so cool. That's basically it. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, so I had heard a little bit about that, and that's actually what I was going to bring up before I asked you about the remakes. That there was a sword that people had, I guess, fan theorized for a long time in the PS2 version. They're like, okay, you could get this special sword maybe if you do this or that and this, but it wasn't actually existent in the PS2 version. And
right.
so as so what the company did, what I think is it Ico that did the remake too, or was it someone else?
So it was, I believe, like I think the original studio, they gave their blessing on it, but it was Blue Point Games that did like the entirety of the remake.
Okay, so Blue Point Games decided to pay tribute to the fan base by putting in this fan theorized sword. And they're like, okay, guys, and I guess they also put in an extra battle or like a Colossi in the game, which is really cool.
I wish that was true. They didn't.
Oh man! So I guess
wish they didn't. Yeah.
So there.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, for years we've all everybody who's researched the game knows that they wanted to put extra Colossus in the game, but the original PS2 version can only hold so much data. But they had plans for so many more, and a couple of those designs are out there online that never ultimately made it into the final game. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I actually have a friend of mine in the Discord. He actually did a recent podcast with me. Somerset Banjo. He's one of those guys that has like super knowledge of like different games. Like he just has like an encyclopedia in his head. And he's like, dude, check out this cut content from Shadow of the Colossus. And he showed me like a sandworm of some sort.
Yes.
And there was like a cave monster that was supposed to hang from the cave ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another like a spider monster that was like super tall, and it had like really, really long legs. And there was a dragon, I want to say, as another one. And it had like there was a lava breathing one. So there was like, I don't know how many original Colossi they had plans, but there was a lot of them.
I think when the game was originally in its conceptual planning phases, when they were narrowing it down, because I don't know if you know this, but the original concept for Shadow of the Colossus was fighting these giant beasts, but it was going to be like a online multiplayer game. You were going to play with friends doing this, which looked really cool. But ultimately, that was too ambitious, so I had to scale it down to single player, and it went from like 40-something Colossi you would have fought to 24. And then that got scaled back to 20, and then 16. But there were a lot of really cool creatures that they had planned for it.
Yeah, and if you haven't played this game, and you play it, you'll understand why they cut back so much. And that's because these boss fights are very intricate, and they're they're like, for the PS2 era, it is going way beyond that era of gaming. And so they would have been in development forever if they were doing 24 bosses, or if they were doing especially 40. Like that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way it would have been like 3 PS2 discs long or something. It would have been crazy. But
it would have been massive.
The MMO, I did see the MMO trailer. That because they actually had put out a trailer about and it looks almost identical to what Shadow of the Colossus became, except there was more people.
Mm-hmm.
Which would have been kind of weird on how that would all work. Like maybe one person's weakening the monster or like hitting a weak spot while the other person's on top. I wouldn't even really know, but it would have been interesting to see that come to fruition. I guess the closest thing you got nowadays is like Monster Hunter. Do you play Monster Hunter?
I have a couple of Monster Hunter games. I will say it's one of those games that I really enjoyed. I loved Monster Hunter World. I haven't played the newest one, Wilds. I haven't played that one yet. I have Rise and Generations Ultimate on the Switch. And the games are awesome, but they are definitely way more fun with friends.
Yeah, so I have a friend who loves that game. It's like his favorite game of all time. And so I think he bought me the original Monster Hunter World without the expansion. And I tried playing it, but it wasn't exactly the same as Shadow of the Colossus, because you have these giant weapons, and each of them have their own style, and the way the combat feels in the game is very input laggy, it feels like, or there's a lot of frame locking in the game. You use emotion, and I know this isn't about Monster Hunter, but I'm just trying to compare and contrast. Shadow of the Colossus. You use a an attack and you get frame locked for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then like you do another, and then depending on the weapons, you know, each one's a little bit like different, and you have to do combos. I couldn't get into it, but with Shadow of the Colossus, it's way easier to jump in because you don't have any complex weapons. It's mostly about these boss fights are puzzles, more or less.
Yes.
You're not really mechanically doing anything super difficult mechanically, but you are trying to figure out how to beat these bosses. Because they all have very unique scenarios. Most of them have very unique scenarios on how to beat them. So that, you know, that's the only game I could think of that is like comparable to Shadow of the Colossus. I don't know of any other games that are really like it. Do you?
Not really. Shadow of the Colossus is such like a unique experience that if anything, I've seen games that took elements from it and, you know, like kind of like took the ideas of it and tried to incorporate it into their own. Like one that comes to mind, for example, is Castlevania Lords of Shadow, which has a couple of boss fights that feel very much like Shadow of the Colossus, and I kind of laughed when I played it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Definitely look into that if you haven't checked it out. Castlevania Lords of Shadow. It's not a bad game by any means. I actually like it. Just when I get those boss fights, I'm like, yeah, I know what you were getting this from. I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there has been games inspired by it for sure. I mean, Monster Hunter had to. I mean, well, when did the original Monster? Was that a PS2 game as well? Like the original Monster Hunter?
I think so. I kind of want to look at it now.
Yeah, I'm curious because I wonder how that played. I wonder if it was anything similar, you know? But yeah.
Oh, okay. So the very first Monster Hunter released for the PlayStation 2 in 2004. So it beat Shadow of the Colossus by a year.
Okay. Yeah. So it might. I mean, I don't know the original gameplay. I have no idea if they're even similar at all. But they are. I guess they're both monster hunting game, like in the sense that you're taking down giant monsters. That's interesting. Yeah. So let's go into the story a little bit. So could you maybe explain the story to people who might not have played the game?
Yeah. So when Shadow of the Colossus opens up, we see our main protagonist, Wander, riding Agro and carrying what appears to be, well, something. We don't really know in the original like opening cutscene, which opens the game and just beautifully and breathtakingly showcases what you can expect not only out of the story, but out of the visuals of the game. I love the intro. I actually like, especially the PS4 remake. I practically get teary-eyed watching the intro because it's so beautiful. But anyway, once you get past that and you start the game, you approach this this giant like tower, this giant shrine. And when you make it to an altar and you finally see that your main character is laying a person onto the altar. And after a bit of an explanation about the land, which was apparently some forbidden land that was sealed off because of some dangers to it, a voice appears to you and basically says, like, what are you doing here? And you explain, the main character does rather, that you heard that there's a power in the land that can restore the souls of the dead. And we come to find out this is somebody, the person that he brought is somebody that's very important to him. We don't know if it's a girlfriend, a wife, a sister, whoever it might be, maybe even just a close friend. But either way, the voice says, well, it might be really difficult, but I might be able to help you. It might be possible to bring her back. But in order to do that, there are these 16 idols alongside the walls here in the shrine. Each one has to be destroyed. And the idols are representative of 16 Colossus that you'll find roaming the land. Take them down, and I can help you bring her back, basically. But warns that there are consequences that come with it, but you're like, it doesn't matter, I'm just going for it. And then the game begins. Okay. I don't want to say much more without going into spoilers, so I'll stop here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always just kind of give people pre-spoiler warning. So if I'm going to spoil something, I'm just like skip like maybe 5 minutes ahead or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good
so
idea.
feel free to give spoilers. So, but real quick, spoilers alert for you guys listening. If you don't want to know these, skip like maybe 5 minutes ahead. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. So if you're listening at this point, it's your fault if it gets spoiled. Anyway, so you go through the game, you go through these motions, and gradually as you're going, you're hearing a voice talking to you. And it turns out to be whoever this woman is that you brought to have her life restored. But we don't know what she's saying. Like, okay, so for context, none of the language in the game is like English. It's all some very foreign language that, like, I don't even think it's an actual language. It's something that's made up for the game, which is really cool. But as the game progresses, like at about the halfway point, you start seeing visions of her coming back to life, but obviously it's just a vision, just a dream, whatever. Then when you get to after like the 12th Colossus you take down, you start seeing like a cutscene of these people that are approaching the shrine that you're at because they're seeing that something's going on in that land. But you keep going. After you've taken out the last Colossi, the people that we saw in that cutscene I just mentioned arrive. And when they show up, they are in an absolute panic because they have no idea what's going on. They're scared. They're terrified. But then they see you come back. And when you appear before them, they say to you that, like, no matter what you were told, you were being deceived, that you basically just brought a great evil back to the land and that you were being used. And basically, you're cursed. Like, your character at this point has, like, horns. It looks like a zombie, basically becoming the embodiment of evil. So you're taken out, you're killed. And so the voice that was talking to you, telling you what to do in the beginning of the game, is suddenly taking control of your body and the shadows of all these colossi and grouping up and basically saying, like, this is what you get. You severed our body into 16 segments and spread us out across the land. Now we've arisen anew. We're taking this back. But before Dorman can do anything, you're the people that came upon the land, they seal you into the shrine, basically destroy Dorman, but also takes you out. Ultimately, your character isn't able to keep going. Your character dies. And then after that, the final cutscene, she comes back to life. So she did survive. She did live through it, but you didn't. So Dorman helped bring her back, but at the consequence of losing you, basically. It's a wild freaking journey. And the first time I played through the game, because of other events that happened, I sobbed. It's definitely a very emotional experience.
Yeah, so, when you are playing this game, and you'll get the impression very quickly that Dorman is maybe not a good guy, and you do get that impression pretty early on. However, Dorman is pretty transparent about, he tells you in the beginning, like, this is not going to go well for you if you do this. You'll resurrect the female if you kill all the 16, but you are not, like, you're going to come out scarred, basically. You're going to be, so in that sense, he's evil, but he's transparent.
Yes.
And so you're just kind of bargaining with the like some sort of entity to do it. And the shadows that are after you kill each boss, or that are standing there originally, are those the souls of the Colossi? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
They are.
That's what I got, because every time you kill one, like, more appear, I guess. And so, yeah, this land is forbidden. You mentioned it earlier, maybe because of dangers, but maybe it's also forbidden due to the fact that it's some sort of like holy cursed land.
Yes.
And you can kind of tell based on that. And a lot of these people that I know play the game feel kind of torn about killing the Colossi, because it's like, it's bittersweet, because, like, apparently, in some people, they're like, the Colossi are kind of just minding their own business, and maybe they have actually a purpose in that land. There's a reason for them existing, but then you go out kind of hunting them, in a way. So, I don't know if the Colossi are inherently good or inherently bad. Maybe they're just inherently neutral, but they seem to serve a purpose. And maybe that is to keep dormant inside of his temple. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of like the mythos of like Zeus versus the Titans or something in a way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the contrast I see there. Because obviously I don't know the full story about Zeus, but the Titans and Zeus didn't get along. Zeus kind of banned them to the wherever and like put shackles on him, jailed them, whatever, and then later on they fight Olympia and they're against Zeus. But yeah, so it's very interesting. The story is told to a degree which you can understand kind of what's going on, but it's left to interpretation a lot. Do you feel that way?
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't know if there was ever any content that ended up going deeper into the story. Do you know?
Not particularly. It's one of those things where sort of like, as you're playing it, and especially if you do end up going back and replaying it, you sort of begin like gathering your own, inferring your own thing about what greater things were going on in this world. And especially if you play, because Ico is connected to this game in one way or another. And to a degree, The Last Guardian is also connected to it. So if you play all three of those games, you start to see the connections a little bit. And you're kind of like, wow, that's kind of genius, actually. And like, I know there's the new one that's coming out. It's tentatively named like Project Robot right now. There's not really any more info known about it, but it looks really cool. And the trailer definitely has Shadow of the Colossus influence to it. So I'm looking forward to playing that game. But yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know much about The Last Guardian. I know Ico is... So, from my basic understanding, I know Ico is related to in this game as it's supposed to be a sequel, maybe, to Shadow of the Colossus. At least...
That's the idea.
That's the idea based on the horned child.
Yes.
And you do see Colossi-like creatures in that game. And but... there's really no strong like connection. Like there's not like this is this like prequel and
right.
These characters connect. So everybody kind of has to like interpret and kind of like come together. Like maybe this is what this is, and then The Last Guardian. I have no idea what that is that's even about. I mean, is that is there a strong connection between The Last Guardian and these games or?
To be honest, I think the strongest connection is with the aesthetic. Like it has that real feel to it. And plus, I know this is more of like a wink than anything else, but in the PS4 remake for Shadow of the Colossus, there is a little hidden area in one of the forests that pays tribute to Last Guardian and straight up makes that connection. But I think that was more of an Easter egg than anything else. So I don't think there's a direct connection, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah, and so I noticed with some of these games, developers like to intentionally leave some of the interpretation up to the audience. They think it's like a fun way for people to like engage. Do you prefer like more concrete stories, or do you like this kind of like, ooh, like maybe it's this, maybe it's that? Like, what do you prefer?
I guess it depends on the game. Like something like Shadow of the Colossus, for example, I think it's fun to leave it up to the imagination. But when you've got something more like narratively driven, like let's say, I think this is the one way I can relate it a little bit, is another one of my favorite games, BioShock, which I feel like the whole world of BioShock, which could be a whole discussion in and of itself, but I digress. I feel like with that, I love the concrete narrative of the stories of those games. I love how they're all connected, and it is very deliberate with a purpose that I think works so well. So something like that contrasting to Shadow of the Colossus, I love how it leaves it up to the imagination.
Okay, so you do like a little bit of the play, like being able to like kind of like fan theorize and stuff. I feel a little bit torn because I do enjoy that as well, but I enjoy that to a certain extent. Like I like it about stuff that's trivial, but I do, for some reason I really like timelines. So I really enjoy like like, oh, this was a prequel and now you can see like this is a sequel. I like games. I don't know why. I like the continuation of a story that I enjoy. Because like when you have a story that you enjoy, like Shadow of the Colossus, and then it's like seems to kind of get cut off so early and so quick. I'm like, dang, man, like I want like more of that. I guess I'll, talk, I guess connect that to my review a little bit, because like that's one of my in between points. Like the story is one of those things that I'm like wishy washy on. Like I'm like, I like what it has. I just wish there was more later on, or like maybe a Shadow of the Colossus 2 or something. And they've just done a lot of remakes. They never went with a number 2, even though I think it would do really well. But maybe that's for a reason,
Perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Team Ico is still even around. I'm not really sure.
They're around, but they don't call themselves Team Ico anymore.
Oh,
they're now known as Gen Design.
Gen Design. What
Gen
games
Design.
what games have they made recently?
So I think their most recent one is honestly, I mean, I'll research it right now just to make 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure their most recent one was, well, The Last Guardian. But they've got their next title in the works, which again is currently called Project Robot, which I gotta watch the trailer again at some point, because every time I see that trailer, I'm like, oh, there's gonna be some kind of connection with this game. There's gotta be, because visually it looks way too similar.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
The Project Robot, from what I saw, the trailer, it's it's basically going to be futuristic version of Shadow of the Colossus, kind of in a way.
Yeah.
So like with robots and giant robots and stuff. So it's going to be interesting.
For sure.
Yeah. So so the story for me is good, but not enough. I wish there was more. And it has me asking so many questions that are left unanswered, and I'm like, ugh. But it's good. It is good. For it's short and sweet, I would say. And so let's talk about maybe some of the good points of the game that I like. One of the good points, and one of the good points that you immediately notice in the introduction is the music. And I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, but the music is really good in this game. So it changes a lot, and it changes based on where you're at in the land, and it gives you so much ambience, and you like certain parts. So like if you're like on a certain part of the Colossus fight, it will be like kind of ominous, and then it will get into more of an epic. And like when you get closer to beating the Colossi, it even gets more exciting, and it changes based on which phase of the fight you're on. And it's so good, dude. And it gets you pumped.
Yes.
You're like, let's go. Yeah, dude. So you feel me on this. It's like, so like, it gets you so pumped. And I just love it. It's so orchestral. It's so, it's just done really well. I don't know who the composer is off the top of my head, but I mean, is there like a favorite soundtrack you have in this game, or just any more you want to add to that?
So, Ko Otani is the composer of Shadow of the Colossus, and did an absolutely fantastic job with it. Also, like a couple other things that Ko Otani has done, is responsible for the music for I don't know how familiar with like movies like Godzilla, Gamera, stuff like that, but like he did the soundtracks for like the Heisei Gamera films, for Godzilla, for all of these awesome freaking like kaiju films. So like that epic feel brought into Shadow of the Colossus is just perfect. But I gotta think about that, because I feel like the whole soundtrack is just chef's kiss. It's so good. Give me 1 second as we keep talking. I am going to find a couple of these tracks that I'm just like in love with. There's one in particular. Anybody who's played the PS4 version knows what I'm talking about. There's one particular track that plays when you're hovering over the icon on the main PS4 menu. It's like a soft, like acoustic guitar with like an orchestra that's accompanying it, and it just it to me that's like the perfect track, and it's hardly even used in the game at all. But I think it's called The Farthest Land. I think that's what the track's called.
Is this a new track that they implemented for the remake?
Oh no, this was in the I believe I heard it in the PS3 version too. Like sometimes the song will play if you just leave the controller alone during the title screen, and you'll get a little cutscene that features like Agro kind of walking around, or will feature like various creatures like birds and stuff like that that are in the land just sort of flying around. And it's one of the tracks that'll play then, which is really cool.
Yes, I did hear this a lot when I was like I had the game loaded up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it sounded like, but I do remember it being very emotional.
Yes. And that's the stuff that like really drew me in with this game, the really emotional tracks that just really grip you and keep you going. I also really liked the open way. That's like the main battle music that it's one of the first tracks you even hear in the game. And every time I hear that, I'm just in awe. I just think it sounds so good. Okay. And there are just so many.
There's so many, dude. And they, so like one of the like moments of the music I just remember changing a lot is like you're fighting that bird on the lake, and so you're waiting kind of for like you kind of like antagonize the bird to get it to come down and attack you, and it changes, it like swaps from like this slow, like ominous type of music, and the moment you jump up and grab onto its wing, it changes like epic, like right when you grab onto it. It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
And it was just I love the soundtracks. I think that the soundtracks are perfect in this game.
Another track that I want to quickly shout out is the final song that you hear in the credits just before the game ends. And like, at this point, as the credits are rolling, you're thinking about everything that's happened. You're thinking about everything you're seeing during the credit crawl. And then this beautiful piano track plays. It's called The Sunlit Earth. And that final minute and a half, if it doesn't have you in tears, then you probably didn't fully grasp the game like I did. It's so good.
Yeah, and the music will, if you're a music person, or even if you're not, I think it will get you emotionally ramped up, in one way or another, whether it's excitement or sadness or fear, like not fear, but like maybe a little bit of anxiousness. Like it's kind of like it's got all of those,
For sure.
So one of the bad points I wanted to kind of bring up in the game was the horse movement. I'm not, so I don't think it's like the worst. And as you play the game, you get better at it, so it becomes like less worse. But it's like driving, like it's very sensitive. Like you like press the analog and it's like whoop, and it like just flies over, and then you do it again and it just kind of flies over. So like when you're first riding this horse, you're just like zigzagging the whole time. Because I went from playing Ocarina of Time to playing this. I was like, what the heck, dude? I don't know how to drive this horse. Like somebody's like, your horse looks drunk or something, and I was like, dude, I know, man. Like, you do get better, but it's a little wonky. It's not, and then there's like times where like he's on a little hill and he like just slows down. Like your aggros are like, no, this little tiny whatever, piece of dirt, I'm not doing it, and I'm like, why can't I just run over like this piece of dirt's like this big? Like, I don't understand why I can't run over this. But yeah, so he'll like start walking, and you're like, come on, and you're like kicking him. You're like, come on, aggro. But and it had me, and I heard that if you hold down the run button, it will keep your speed. But I didn't feel like that for some reason, so I kept kicking him like over and over and over. Like, so I'm spamming that button. I'm like, kick, go. So the horse movement felt a little, I don't know. It was a little wonky for me. I mean, I'm sure you're like a pro at it now, But
yeah, I would say nowadays, now that I've played it for so long, yeah, I've definitely improved with it and I figured out its nuances, but I think that's a criticism that is extremely valid because I know you're definitely not alone there. The way that the game was designed and this sort of thing was carried over to The Last Guardian as well, where like so your horse sometimes feels like maybe it has a mind of its own, because the director Ueda, he intended the horse to sort of like want to rebel from you once in a while, which both works for and against the way the game plays. But it was also something I really didn't like about The Last Guardian. As much as I love the game, your main creature in Last Guardian, Trico, definitely has a mind of its own. And there were moments where it made me curse the day I picked the game up. But it's just part of the game's charm, I suppose.
Yeah, I understand wanting to write something like that, but when it comes to gameplay, like it can be it can be a little annoying for players. Yeah.
Totally. So one fun little aside is that a game that I want to shout out is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I know, like, despite what people may feel about it as a Zelda game, at the end of the day, I feel like it perfected the horse mechanics, because it felt a lot like when I was playing Shadow of the Colossus when riding the horses in Breath of the Wild. But Nintendo found some way to really improve the experience. If they had that horse riding in Shadow of the Colossus, it'd be perfect.
Okay.
That's all I could say about that.
Yeah, I haven't played Breath of the Wild or Tears yet, so those are games I want to get to. Yeah, and I might do like a little because I have this other podcast line called Side Quest, where it's not just retro games, it's like different categories and stuff. And so maybe I'll cover one of those on Side Quest. I think that would be a good opportunity. Yeah, and I've really wanted to play those games because they are very, very popular. So the horse riding's good, which is nice to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's go back to kind of one of the good points again. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, back in 2005 or 2006 when I played it, the graphics were outstanding, like almost, I think, incomparable. There might have been a few games that maybe were close back then, but not many as far as graphics went. Specifically with the Colossi and like the environment. The character models were kind of like whatever, but for some reason the Colossi, man, they just went ham on making those guys look crazy. And when I replayed it this week, it was the same ordeal. I didn't feel like I was playing a PS2 game. I was like, dude, these graphics are still good. Like this feels like an Xbox 360 at least, and it's just the way they, the first time you see a Colossi, you're like, it's like this, it's kind of like a basic looking one, but he's like, you're looking at him, you're like, dude, I got to fight that big thing. Like, what is my little character supposed to do? And you kind of get into this predicament every time you run into a new Colossi, where you're like looking at this you're like, what am I supposed to do against this? So the graphics are still really good. The environment is it's kind of desolate, but it's beautiful in a way. Like it makes the land feel vast, and it does feel forbidden. Like you feel like you're not supposed to be there,
Oh yeah.
And so they did really, really well, even with these old PS2 graphics. And I really wanted to play the remake this last week just to contrast it to the PS2. But I don't have a PS4 console just sitting here, and I don't have the game on me. And so, PS2 it was. And so, but, I was perfectly happy with it. I still think the graphics hold up today. I still think the graphics are super good for today's standards. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just amazing. Do you feel the same way even about the PS2 or?
I was actually thinking about this too, because I was thinking about this earlier, this appearance, and I'm like thinking of things I could talk about. Anyway, so recently I had got a RetroTink 5X Pro, and I wanted to test out various consoles with it, see how much it would improve the visual fidelity of some of these games. And when I got to the PS2, I couldn't think of any other game to fire up than Shadow of the Colossus so I could see how it looked. And I was blown away. Like, it's a PS2 game that still looks really freaking good. It's still my favorite PS2 game, even though I have the PS4 version that sets the bar way higher. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I kind of, you know, I pretty much from everybody I talked to on social media was like, play the remake, because I guess it's the same. It just is the same game, but just better, and graphically, and it just does all the same things, but just tunes it up basically. So, you know, so I'm a little sad that I didn't get to play that, but one day I will. It's just not today. So I was pleasantly, because that's I was kind of worried because, you know, when you think, you know, and I've mentioned this on previous podcasts, but like I went back and played games like Silent Hill and I was like, oh my gosh, the graphics are horrible. Like, you know, and I didn't remember them being that bad. So it shocked me a little bit. And then, but when I went back and played Shadow of the Colossus, like I remembered them being really good, and I was like, I hope they stand up, and they're still pretty good. They're, you know, it's not going to be a PS5 game good, but it's still gonna be good enough to where you're like, these are like, I'm still happy with it. And you know, you kind of worry about realistic looking games because the only games that seem to hold up graphically these days are like the cartoony ones, kind of like the cell shaded, like Wind Waker or something. You know, and that's because they chose an art style that just like will always look decent. But these realistic ones like the Shadow of the Colossus, you worry that they're not going to hold up, but it did well. And maybe that won't be forever, but for now it's still good. And now one of the bad points I had was that it was a little difficult to get to some of the areas. And you, or not like difficult, but it can be confusing. You're like, so you'll be like, so the way you find your way in this game for the listeners is that you'll hold up a sword and it shines a light, and the light gets narrower as you shine it towards in the right direction. And you're supposed to go in that direction. So you'll like sometimes shine up the sword and it will be kind of vague on exactly, like it will point you in that direction, but it'll be vague on which way you're supposed to take, because there's like left, there's like the right, and then there's like a land bridge over here, and you don't really want to take the wrong way because it's such a big map that if you did, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm completely like lost, and it's going to take like a long time to get around. Now I don't, you know, maybe there's multiple maybe all roads lead to Rome in this game, and maybe I missed that point. But, yeah. And then there's like a point where you'll like point it and it'll be like pointing into a mountain, and you're like, okay, now it's pointing into this mountain. Am I supposed to like, am I supposed to go right or left? Like, I don't know. But did you know, but you're a pro, so you like know where every Colossi are. Do you remember having this feeling originally, or is this like,
Oh, absolutely. There were so many times where I would just kind of, I would kind of just kind of wing it and be like, well, I know I got to go in this general direction, but maybe this is where I got to go. If something got a little more ominous, I would stop and look around. Sure enough, boom, a Colossus appears. But for the most part, yeah, there were times that it was really difficult to get around. And I admit there's still one area on the map, even in the PS4 remake, where I'm sort of like, am I going the right way? And once in a while, I'll turn the wrong way and I'll be like, oh crap, I went the wrong way, and I'll have to turn around and find my way still. Which, I take it as it comes, but yeah, you're not wrong for that.
Yeah, and I guess the only reason that's even a problem is that it does take time to get to these places. It's not like a hop, skip, and a jump. It's like a hop, a hop, and then a couple more skips, and then a few jumps, you know? So it takes a little bit of time. So if you do go the wrong way, you're like, dude. Or like if you died, died before you got to the Colossi. Oh my gosh. You have to start.
And the other thing is that this isn't like a lot of the newer games where like there are waypoints or fast travel points. No, you got to start from a certain spot that you saved at.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I always end up starting back. Like I only died a few times in the world. I think it only happened like once or maybe twice. And you have to like start all the way back at the temple, and I'm like, oh no! Like, if like, here we go, now back out, here we go, like just riding away. But yeah, it wasn't like, and when I say it takes time, what am I saying? I'm saying like 15, maybe 20 minutes if you don't know where you're going, maybe 25.
Certainly.
Like if you don't know where you're going, it might take about 20 to 25 minutes. If you do know where you're going, you're probably going to be there in like 10, or less. So
yeah,
it just really depends on the player. But yeah, I found that to be I found the pointing system with the sword to be a little wonky, and don't get me even started about like finding the weak points on the Colossi with the sword. Because that only worked like 25% of the time. Like, so also for the audience, you're supposed to hold up the sword, and it's supposed to point in the direction where the Colossi is weak. But sometimes when you hold up the sword, it will just be like a bright yellow or something, and you're like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
Like, point at the damn Colossus. Like, you're like, "What am I?" Why does it do that? Do you know like what the secret is?
So for me, the funny thing is, it wasn't until like the third or fourth time I ever played Shadow of the Colossus that I learned you could actually point the sword at the weak spots. Because I was just climbing on it, and I would have the sword equipped, and suddenly I'd see a spot start glowing, and there I was. So that's kind of how I figured out the weak spots. But like, when I finally figured out that you could point at it, I kind of said to myself, why? I didn't understand why they even implemented it, but I guess it's cool for folks. I'd never used it personally.
Yeah, well, to be fair, dude, it doesn't even work that well. I tell you that right now. Like you're almost better off in most cases just like climbing around the Colossi and just trying to find the weak spot.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I did most of the game. I'm like, okay, well, I got the head point because there's always one on the head. I already got the one on the head, so now like where am I looking for? Dude, the one. So I'll get into the fights now. So the fights, is in between for me. I would say most of them were good. I'd say 80% of the Colossi fights were really good. So they were enjoyable. They were hard, like they were challenging, but they weren't too challenging in the way that like, it's like, okay, the weak spot's here, and it just took me a little bit, maybe I had to do like this special thing, and then I finally figured it out. But there were some fights that were kind of hard to figure out because each fight's a puzzle. There's like a step 1, 2, 3, 4 that you kind of have to do with all these bosses. And some of them, you're like, I struggled kind of figuring out, like, I almost looked at a walkthrough. I didn't, but I almost did. I was like, I don't want to figure it out anymore. I don't know what to do. But like, let me think of one as an example. So the snake boss I died, the one that's in the sand, dude, he killed me a lot. He killed me like 4 or 5 times. And so the secret to him is that you have to get on Agro, you have to run away from him, and then you have to like shoot him in the eyeball with an arrow.
Yeah.
And then he'll like turn around and do flips, and then you got to run him into a wall, and then you can finally get to his weak spot. I was just like, what the heck? Like, I had him trying to destroy rocks. That wasn't working. I had tried to run into a wall. That wasn't working. And so you get kind of frustrated in some of these fights. But, what was even more frustrating than figuring them out is that some of them, there's a reset mechanic. So, like, you will get to a spot where you finally get to the weak spot, and you'll be hitting it, and you're like, yeah, let's go. But then the boss does this thing where it like will reset you, like knock you off somehow, or like, for example, there's like a one in the lake, like a giant one, like guy who's like in the lake that has teeth on the top of his head.
Yes.
And like you get on his belly and you stab it like once or twice, and then he plunges back into the water. So you have to like bring his face back down. You have to jump on his face again, get back up, re-guide him to the pillar, jump back on the pillar, get him to come back up, and then you can finally get on his belly and do that again. And that took me like 3 times. Dude, I don't like the reset mechanic bosses. Those ones were really annoying to me. Not all of them had that. Some of them you just like had to like control your grip. And you were fine. And those ones were fine. I was fine with those. Like, but the ones that like intentionally like made you feel like you had to reset. Like the monkey boss kind of made you do that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah. but most of them were good, 80%. And so you said you had trouble with the monkey boss. Were there any other ones that like come to mind?
So first, the funny anecdote about the whole reset thing. So the 13th Colossus, it's Phalanx, that giant like sky worm snake thing. Which is one of my favorite fights in the entire game, by the way. I love that fight. But it does a thing where, for context, for anybody visualizing it, you've got to fire at 3 parts of its underbelly in order to like kind of deflate it and bring it down, and then it will allow you to give it an opportunity to like climb up on it, and then you can start to attack. If you're quick enough, you can actually defeat it in one go without it resetting. But if you're a little too slow, it will reset at least once on you, and then you got to go through the motions all over again. So I like to challenge myself with that one, to go through all of it in one shot without resetting. But that number 12, the one with the teeth in the lake, yeah, that one honestly is one of my more annoying fights. I don't really like fighting that Colossus, but I just go through the motions and get it over with. And number 7 isn't particularly a bad fight. I just feel like I would have rather it had a different one. It just felt a little too repetitive. Like that one, you've got to jump in the lake, swim around to get its attention from under the water, and then it swims up, and you've got to find your way onto its back while avoiding getting zapped. It was the giant like eel. Those are the 2 fights that really sort of stood out and were kind of annoying to me. But other than that, I could take them.
Yeah. Anything that involves swimming in this game kind of sucks because your character has like 1 speed, you know?
So like, isn't that the thing with video games? We don't like the water fights.
Yeah. I think if they had a sprinting swim, I think I would have been like more like okay with it. Like, okay, like I can swim faster, but he kind of just like, he like doggy paddles basically to like the next spot. You're like
more or less.
And so you're like, okay, here we go. Like when you drop from the bird in the lake, like you're just like swimming back to the platforms. You're like, oh boy.
The few times I fall off that bird, it hurts my soul.
Yeah. And because you can fall pretty far from the platforms, and you're like, here we go. Like I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes swimming over to the platform. Yeah, so I would say the swimming boss, anything with the, like, I enjoyed them. I actually had a lot of fun with them, but there is a lot of lake bosses kind of, and you're like, dude, I just don't make me swim too much, please. Like a little bit's okay, but just not too much. Right. And the sky worm that you're talking about, the desert in the desert, he took me like three goes, dude. And so I had to reset him 3 times. And
yeah, it can be a bother if you've got to reset. It happened a lot when I was first playing it, but after a while, it's just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and now you're good.
It's pretty funny once you figure it out.
Yeah, and so if I like did this a second time around, I would be a lot better. You know, I would probably be able to beat these bosses in half the time. You know, because a lot of it's just figuring out what to do. You know, it did make me a little nervous though on the Skyworm because you have to kind of like ride against it. Like, so he's like flying in the air and you're on aggro and you kind of have to like ride next to his wing and jump onto the wing. That part was kind of hard for me. Like, I mean, I did it, but
yeah, I still miss once in a while. Like it's one of those things where you just got to have the right timing and just a smidgen of patience.
Yeah. And hopefully he's not like turning or something, you know, like you're like, oh, and because it's like, you know, it's going at fast speeds. It's basically going as fast as aggro can go. And you're like, you're riding next to this thing. But that's what makes it so epic is that like you're it's like a movie, you know, you're like watching and playing a movie where like your character's riding on full speed on a horse next to this giant sandworm in the sky. And you have to jump off the horse onto its wing, climb up, stab its back. So, I mean, these fights, even though they can be annoying and some of the bosses that wiggle too much are just so obnoxious. They're no matter what, they're epic, and you're gonna have, even in the annoying fights, you're gonna have fun. Even in the ones that are annoying, you're gonna have a great time.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
Some are more straightforward. You're gonna climb up. You're not gonna have to reset at all. You're gonna get them on the first go, and you're gonna just bap, and they're gonna go down. But yeah, but in those ones, you're not going to remember as much. You're going to remember the ones that are a little bit more challenging, like the last boss that I remembered from all way back when. I didn't get to replay him this week, but I'm sure he's still a pain in the butt. So yeah. Now, so that was, an in-between that I had. I don't really have a lot of other bad things to say about this game. This game, was mostly good, mostly wonderful in many ways. I'm kind of curious. Is this one of your favorite games of all time, or is it?
It's been consistently in my top 5 ever since I played it, basically.
Out of curiosity, what are your other games that you really enjoy?
So, in no particular order, aside from Shadow of the Colossus, I also am a huge fan of Super Mario World, one of the best platformer games ever made. I still replay it constantly. It's something I challenge myself on Twitch a lot. Star Fox 64 is another one of my all-time favorites because I just love the score attack routine and seeing if I can score a little more every single time I play it. I also am a huge fan of the original NES Legend of Zelda. It's a game that I feel like, and this is a recurring theme with a lot of these games, is they're games that I love to replay because I feel like every time I replay them, there's something new that I learn about the game as I'm playing it. And in the case of the original Zelda, I feel like it's a game I get a little better at and I get through it quicker every time, but also I'm trying to chip away at that second quest. But anyway, I would say my favorite of all time, and anyone who's listening from Twitch already knows, my favorite is Earthbound, which top class RPG in my opinion. It's very there's a lot of nostalgia with it. I love the storyline, I love the music, I love the humorous beats to it. I love when it knows how to be serious and how serious it feels when it gets to those parts. So out of all those games, I feel like Shadow of the Colossus is the most different because it's not as retro as the other games, but also has a very beautifully spun narrative, and visually it looks good. The soundtrack's amazing. Yeah, those are my top 5 games.
Some quality games right there. I feel like Super Mario World's one of those games that's renowned as one of the best games ever. And the original Zelda, I don't hear too much, but I do hear Link to the Past a lot, and I do hear, Earthbound. Earthbound is a very popular, and they're all very good for a good reason. So those are good. That's a good list, I think. I think you got a good list there. Got some good taste.
Heck yeah.
So before we kind of rate Shadow of the Colossus, what are your is there any final thoughts or things that we missed that we should talk about or add?
So something that came to mind, especially when you keep talking about that final boss in the game. So a bit of trivia. So that dragon Colossus that we talked about earlier that was scrapped from the game. That was actually supposed to be the original final fight.
Oh, really?
That was going to be the final boss. But playtesters, as they were programming the game, they all were sharing how difficult the fight was. And they thought that maybe it wouldn't be a good fit for the game after all because of how tough it was. So they scrapped it, and ultimately we got the final fight that's in the game, which is still a good challenge. Absolutely. But I sometimes think, what if? What if we got those scrapped Colossus fights? I know there are some fans that are apparently working on it for some kind of a fun little project. I don't know if it'll ever happen or see the light of day, but it's fun to think about.
I do hope fans make it come to life because modding and all that stuff is just it's magical, I think, and you can see the passion in the mods and stuff, and I think they're super cool.
Sure.
And they should have kept it in because maybe you have the first 16 Colossi and that's the main storyline, but maybe as a bonus boss you have that final boss.
Yeah.
That's just the hard mode. It's you don't have to beat him. He's the ruby weapon or the emerald weapon of that's a Final Fantasy VII reference.
Sure, yeah.
Of this game. Sephiroth's the final boss in FF7, but you have those extra bosses that you can do if you want. Not part of the story, but there it is. There's the challenge. I like that. I like that mechanic.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And so that's like maybe one change I would make. And I hope the modders, I hope they bring it, because I did see some mod projects out there that I was like, this would be so cool if they brought that. That'd be so, and but they're always like, they don't have enough people and because they're doing it for free and they don't have enough time. And it's like, it can be hard, dude, to program stuff.
Oh, totally. And and as an aside, real talk, big props to the modding community, the people that work on mods for games, that work on these fan projects, the decompiling projects. You all are doing amazing things. You all are doing God's work, basically. I love seeing what y'all do. And one final note about Shadow of the Colossus, and all it is this. Sony, you have been porting all of these awesome PlayStation games to PC. You've done it with God of War. You did it with Ghost of Tsushima. You did it with the Horizon games. You did it with God of War Ragnarok and Returnal. Can we please get a Steam port of Shadow of the Colossus already? The PS4 remake? Bring it to Steam. Let people play it on PC. I think it would be amazing. It would do amazing.
Heck yeah, dude. I completely 100% agree, dude. Just do it. Like, stop gatekeeping. They want people to buy the PlayStations, man.
Bring it to PC. Just do it.
I know.
Grow a pair and bring it to PC.
Grow a pair. Like, yeah. You won't do it. You're too scared. Yeah, but that would be great. I just wish, some of the companies have been really good. Like GOG Games seems like they're doing some really great work, bringing some of these old games back to life, PC porting them, getting the rights. I think it's like been fantastic what they're doing. I hope, I hope they that the gaming industry as a whole continues to go in that way. So.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. I'm gonna ask you to rate the game out of 16 Colossi. What would you rate Shadow of the Colossus?
Out of 16 Colossi?
Yeah,
I love that rating system. I think with everything I've said about it, it might be a little bit obvious. 16 out of 16. Yeah.
Okay. Is that including the PS2 version or mostly the PS4?
Oh yeah. Like I think it's like every version possible, because like either way, regardless of whether you're playing it on PS2, PS3, or PS4, you are still playing one of the masterpiece video games of all time. It's a game that changed the narrative landscape of gaming when it came out. It still looks visually stunning to this day, no matter what platform you're playing it on. And granted, on older platforms especially, the control scheme takes some getting used to. But if you can get past that, you've got a game with a killer soundtrack, some high emotions, and just all around makes you feel like an absolute bossa nova when you get through every single one of the fights. I love it. It's one of my perfect games.
Yeah. Wow. So that's amazing. I mean, that's good to hear. I love that people have passion for these games. And 16 out of 16. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, man. I mean, that's incredible. So when I go to think about rating this game, obviously you heard my little gripes and my little like tits that I had about it. And so, but the game overall was very good. 90% of this game is amazing. 95%. Beautiful, gorgeous, fun, challenging, but not too challenging. It's not like Elden Ring where you're just going to die like a billion times. It's pretty much got all the pieces together for the most part. And so I would personally have to rate it like maybe a 14 out of 16. And I think in that, if you're going at a 1 out of 10, I think that's like close to like an 8.5 or something. It's totally. It's really good, man. It's so good. I just had little gripes, with certain things, and those are most of those are honestly modding. They could probably fix those things like instantly, like most of my little gripes. And so but they did it was so wonderful. I'm so happy I came back and played this game. It's short, not too short. It's like maybe like I don't know, 10 hours of gameplay if you're not finding all the secrets, and there's a lot of secrets and you could spend 20 hours, 30 hours probably in this game. And when I say secrets, I mean like all the lizard tails and all the health shrines or whatever you're looking for.
Right.
Fruit. And so yeah, but it's just it doesn't get a lot. It's simple, but it's not too simple, and it doesn't get a lot better than this. It's like here you are, go into the land. You're gonna go have some epic fights. You're gonna be on an epic journey. There's nothing too complicated. You're gonna have to solve some puzzles, but you're gonna have a great time. That's it, you know? And I think that's what makes a good game. And I think it didn't need any complex systems or anything to make it a good game. It didn't even need that super intricate story that I kind of like want. It didn't even need that. Like it works the way it is, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's just wonderful. So that being said, yeah, 14 out of 16, solid 14 out of 16. Very solid. Very good. Awesome game. I'm going to go into, and that being said, I have this little thing like, should you reload the game? Absolutely. Reload it, put it back in the system, play it again, like go back and play.
Totally.
And so let's go. I'm going to go into some viewer comments and you can kind of chime in after each one if you'd like.
Yeah.
So Strange Music from Reddit says, it was my favorite game for 10 years. I beat it both normal and hard multiple times and got every secret item. It was my first platinum before platinuming was a game was even a thing. You can see its influence in Death Stranding, my current favorite video game, Elden Ring, and Breath of the Wild. I think Miyazaki even said it's what got him into making games. No SOTC, no Dark Souls, no Bloodborne, no Elden Ring. In fact, Ico, SOTC, and The Last Guardian are one of my favorite obscurely connected trilogies ever made. Absolutely cannot wait for his new game.
I love that comment. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, this is somebody who obviously admires it a lot.
Yes.
And, he just likes the obscurity kind of like you do. And he likes the fact that the new game's coming out and he's just so excited for it. That's awesome. I never played Death Stranding though.
Death Stranding is definitely an experience. I gotta play it again. I remember I played through it when I got my PS5 and I was flabbergasted. It's definitely an incredible experience.
Okay, incredible. It's not like a bad experience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't think it's bad at all. It's a really good game. Just one of them ones that you're going to be doing a lot of thinking as you're playing it.
Oh, okay. It challenges you like mentally.
Yes.
Okay. And
but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm one of those guys nowadays. I used to not really do it, but nowadays, dude, if I'm stuck for like 30 minutes, I'm looking at the walkthrough. Like I can't do it anymore. Like
yeah, I will say I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like walkthroughs are there to help you out enjoy a game. If you want to enjoy it, use the walkthrough.
Yeah,
no shame in it.
It's mostly a time constraint for me. Like I'm like, okay, like I got like this limited time to play these games. I don't really want to be like stuck on something for like an hour. Mm-hmm. So like, okay, 30 minutes, that's like my max. Let's go walk through, but,
of course.
So Sleepy Boy J on Reddit said, I have never played SOTC till the PS3 package with Ico. Absolutely breathtaking atmosphere and soundtracks, both Ico and SOTC. Would recommend the PS4 remaster version. Looks stunning and keeps everything that made it great intact. This reminds me I'll have to replay again. Haven't stuck it on since 2021.
Ooh, definitely get back on it.
Got to get back on it, buddy. Got to play it again.
Definitely.
It's a once a year game. There's a couple of games that people are like, it's like you can go back once a year and still just have a great time, And this might be one of those, So
totally.
Traditional Row. I just finished SOTC yesterday. It's my first time playing the remake, but I played the original back in 2005. And I remember getting frustrated for days because I can't figure out how to defeat a few Colossi, which made me euphoric after beating them. Despite barely remembering anything about it in my recent playthrough, I was able to beat it all, but one Colossi easily. There weren't any emotional roller coaster that I experienced the first time. It's not as an amazing experience, but the remake's graphics is amazing. Okay.
Agreed.
I can see not having that initial shock value that you did before, Yeah. That he's kind of saying like, it was great. I just didn't have that same like, wow feeling that I did the first time. And that makes sense. A lot, it's not like when I go play Ocarina of Time, I'm like, wow, like the world, like I can do anything, because that's how I felt the first time I played like Ocarina. Like I could do anything. Like I'm Link, and like anything's possible, you know. But so I get that, and it's really hard to capture that feeling again, you know. And the last time I captured that, and I think I might have mentioned it on another episode, was like the last time I captured that was VR. The first time I did like a VR headset, and I was like, wow, like this is pretty incredible. So I hope you know, side note, I hope VR really jumps into really takes off, but we'll see. And I'll read one more, and then we'll go on to plug all your stuff. And the only bad thing was that the jump I had to do over the lake to get to the, I think, 3 boss, which made me rage quit 5 times. Other great game with great atmosphere, graphics, and gameplay. Horse movement and animation is spectacular. To learn boss fighting movements can be a bit non-intuitive from the beginning, and sometimes it takes time to solve how to beat the boss. But after you beat it, you will only have good memories of various boss battles you fought. Nostalgia is big with this one, and I played it only 2 years ago.
So, just a quick thought about that comment, which I like everything they said, but that comment about like getting to the 3rd boss by going over that lake and everything. So every time I play it, just about, like, even when I'm on stream, I have to swim from the shore to get to the path to make it all the way up for that 3rd fight. Whenever I'm taking that swim, basically in my mind, I'm having an endless loop of yakety sax playing in my head.
Oh my gosh.
So I've got that playing as I'm doing the long swim, and then when I make it to the platform, it just stops abruptly.
That's funny, man. Oh man. I'm trying to think of the lake for boss 3. So it's like you have to swim across a big lake to get to him.
Well, the platform for the 3rd boss fight is in the middle of a big lake. So you swim to it and you go up this spiral path, and then you have to jump across to get on the platform.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then you've got the big clubber boy there.
It's Big Clubber Boy. Yeah, he's like the guy you always see on like GIFs or like pictures of the game.
He's on the cover of the remake.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what it is. He's always there. Like, Big Clubber Boy. He actually was kind of hard, to get to his special spot.
So I brought it up earlier with one of the trophies. One of the trophies in the PS4 version involves that fight. So the trophy is for defeating the 3rd Colossus without making it break its armor off. Like, you know, clubbing the friggin' middle slab to get its armor to shake off its arm so you can climb up it. Yeah, there's a trophy for doing that fight without making that happen, which is pretty nuts.
How do you do that?
So the way I did it is I was able to somehow manipulate the way that the physics from him swinging the club around. I hopped onto the club, and then, like, as he was getting ready to, like, walk around and move, he, like, quickly flicked his club, and I was able to get in the air just enough that I was able to latch onto a big part of him and climb up from there, and I was able to take him out. It took forever to do the right move. But when you complete it, you pop that trophy, and you feel really good about it.
Wow. Yeah, he's actually, oddly enough, being only the 3rd boss in the game, he's probably one of the more harder fights.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of weird. So, the difficulty spikes in this game are a little bit weird. Sometimes you're like, okay, you know, I'm like, boss 3 should be, hey, what the heck is going on? Like, this guy's, and then it's like, a boss 4, okay, it's easy. Okay, boss 4, what's going on? Like, you know, it's like, you're like, it kind of like, it keeps you guessing. You're like, okay, what is this one going to be hard? But interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you plug all your socials. I know that you're a content creator. I know that you have Twitch and YouTube, and you have your own website. So how about you just tell people like what you do online and where to find you?
I'd be glad to. So yes, for those that aren't as familiar with me, I go by JackAttackDX on Twitch. That's where you can mostly find me. I'm usually streaming during the weekends, and I play a lot of retro nostalgic games, usually the ones people love to reminisce on. I'm also a mental health advocate. I love to discuss mental health on stream. And so first of all, this is making me realize I want to do another playthrough of Shadow of the Colossus on stream at some point, but I'll have to plan that out later. I lately went through another playthrough of Earthbound. I'm planning on picking up the PS1 Rayman to play on stream at some point. I picked it up at PAX, that's what I meant to say, but we're going to be playing that at some point. But yeah, you can find me on usually every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday on Twitch. You can find me at twitch.tv/JackAttackDX. But I also have a heavy social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. I'm starting to do more with TikTok and YouTube. You could find me at JackAttackDX on all of those as well. In fact, all of my links can be found at JackAttackDX.com. So feel free to check it out. And I hope to see you in my streams. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, go check him out, guys. He does retro stuff like I do, and so if you like retro stuff, that's a guy to check out for sure. So real quick, I'm gonna do a riddle, and you can maybe you can guess along with the audience like what I'm gonna play for the next week, and then we'll head on out.
All right.
So the riddle is, and this one I feel like is an easy one. In the distant stars where three factions vie, one zips and swarms, one phasers the sky. You build at your base, harvest minerals fine, command armies in real-time design. What epic game will we play next time?
Ooh.
That's a
good one, guys. That's a good one.
Do you think you know what it is?
I'm going to be honest. There are like three things that come to mind, but I'm not sure if it's any of them.
That'd be funny. It's like not one. All right. So I will let you guess, and then I'll let you know if it's right.
Okay. So the way that you said it, I thought of one that came to mind was StarCraft, but I don't think that's it.
It is.
It is StarCraft. No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. What were the other two?
The other two, I was gonna guess like, I don't know. I was gonna guess like Halo and No Man's Sky.
Okay, I can. You know what? I can see that. I can see those. Yeah, I think what really gives it away is the build your base and harvest minerals. Like,
yeah, when you said that, I'm like, it's got to be StarCraft. Come on.
Yeah, it's a little too, but yeah, it's StarCraft. So cool. Yeah, so I'll be covering StarCraft next week. It's actually
sweet.
It was a Patreon recommendation by one of my Patreon subscribers. So it was actually a Tetra. Shout out to Tetra. Thanks for all your support. We'll be playing StarCraft next week. And yeah, so here we go. I haven't played it in I don't know, man. It's been since I was like maybe 12. I don't remember. It's been so
definitely
long.
Been ages.
Yeah, and if I can maybe get through Brood War, cool. But I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time for that. So yeah, heck yeah, awesome. So yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. I'm glad.
Thank you for having me.
I'd be glad to have you back for other games that you would love to talk about. You've been a great guest.
Of course, I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, go check them out, guys. JackAttackDX.com. All right. Thanks again.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, folks, that's game over for this episode of Retro Reloaded. Thanks for joining me on this retro adventure. If you loved today's trip down memory lane, then consider helping me keep the nostalgia alive by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/retro reloaded. You'll get early episodes, bonus content, and a chance to pick the next game that we reload. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about the podcast, and until next time, keep those controllers charged.